The stars looked cold and empty as Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship. The human exploration vessel Endeavour drifted slowly through space, its engines quiet. Jake had been traveling through this part of the galaxy for 3 months now, mapping new worlds and looking for signs of life. So far, he had found nothing but dead rocks and empty space. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and turned away from the window. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's computers. His crew was small, but good. Dr. Lisa Hamilton worked at her station, studying data from the last planet they had visited. Lieutenant Commander Roy Bennett sat at the weapons console, even though they had not seen any threats in weeks. The rest of the crew was either sleeping or working in other parts of the ship. Captain called out Ensign Tommy Parker from the communications station. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." The young officer pointed at his screen where strange patterns of light were moving across the display. "What am I looking at, Parker?" "It's a signal, sir. But it's not like anything in our database. The computer can't figure out what language it is." Dr. Hamilton looked up from her work. "May I take a look?" she asked. Lisa was the ship's expert. On alien life forms, even though they had never actually met any aliens before, Jake nodded. "Go ahead, Doc." Lisa moved to the communications station and began working with the strange signal. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried different ways to decode the message. After several minutes, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, this is definitely from an intelligent species. The signal has mathematical patterns that prove someone is trying to communicate. Give me a few more minutes, and I think I can make sense of it." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was what every human explorer dreamed of finding. First contact with an alien civilization. He had imagined this moment many times, but he never thought it would actually happen to him. Jake called to his weapons officer. "Run a full scan of the area. I want to know if there are any ships out there." Roy's hands moved over his. "Controls? Scanning now, Captain? I'm not seeing any ships, but there are several star systems nearby. Then the signal seems to be coming from about 12 light years away." Lisa continued working with the alien message. She had connected the ship's main computer to the communications system, using all of their processing power to break the code. Slowly, patterns began to emerge from the strange sounds and symbols. "I think I'm getting something," Lisa said. "Aliens are using pictures and sounds together. It's actually quite clever. They're showing us their star charts and mathematical concepts first, then moving to more complex ideas." Jake watched over her shoulder as the alien message began to make sense. The first part showed star maps that matched the area of space they were in. The aliens had marked several worlds with symbols that seemed to mean home or colony. The message changed. The peaceful star charts were replaced by images of destruction. Worlds that had been marked as homes were now showing explosions and fire. Ships that looked like peaceful vessels were being destroyed by massive war machines. "My God," whispered Lisa. "Captain, I think they're under attack." The message continued. And now, Jake could see the desperation in it. The aliens showed their cities burning and their people fleeing. Children hid in caves while their parents fought. Hopeless battles against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. But the most shocking part came at the end. The message showed the alien species themselves. They looked nothing like humans. They were tall and thin, with forearms and skin that seemed to shimmer like plants. Their faces were gentle, with large eyes that showed intelligence and kindness. These were not warriors. These were peaceful beings who had never learned to fight. The final part of the message was a plea. Aliens had sent their cry for help. To every star in their part of the galaxy, they were begging for someone, anyone, to help them survive. The message included coordinates to their homeworld and detailed information about their enemy. Lisa's voice shook as she translated the final words. "They say they have tried everything they know. Their children are dying, and their worlds are burning. If anyone among the stars has the courage to stand against evil, they ask that we remember them when they are gone." The bridge fell silent. Jake stared at the alien message on the screen, feeling the weight of what he had just heard. Somewhere 12 light years away, an entire civilization was crying out for help. They were facing extinction, and they had No one to turn to except the empty stars. Roy spoke first. Captain, what do we do? We're just one ship. Even if we wanted to help, we don't have the firepower to fight a war. Jake nodded. What? Roy was right. The Endeavor was an exploration ship, not a warship. It had basic weapons for protection against pirates, but nothing that could stand against the massive war fleet shown in the alien message. But then, Jake thought about Earth. He thought about the billions of humans who had never met an alien, who didn't know that peaceful civilizations existed among the stars. He thought about the human military with their powerful ships and skilled soldiers. Lisa, Jake said, how long would it take to get a message back to Earth? About 2 weeks through the quantum relay network, she replied. But Captain, what? Are you thinking? Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore the unknown. They'd never expected to face a decision like this. But Jake knew what he had to do. I'm thinking that these aliens trusted us enough to send us their message. They're begging for help, and we might be the only ones who heard them. Sir Roy said carefully, getting involved in an alien war could be very dangerous. We don't know anything about their enemy or what we would be facing. Jake understood Roy's concerns. The smart thing to do would be to send the message to Earth and let the politicians decide. But Jake had seen the desperate faces of the alien, children in the message. He had heard their parents' final plea to the stars. Tommy Jake said to his communications officer, I want you to send a message to Earth immediately. Tell them what we've found and request immediate military support. Yes, sir, Tommy replied, already working at his station. Captain Lisa said, what are we going to do while we wait for help from Earth? It will take months for any ships to reach us. Jake walked back to the main view screen and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying while their civilization crumbled. They had sent their message to the void, hoping against hope that someone would care enough to answer. We're going to answer their call, Jake said firmly. We're going to fly to their coordinates and let them know that someone heard their plea. We're going to tell them that help is coming. Roy stood up from his station. Sir, with all respect, that's a 12-light-year journey. Even at maximum speed, it will take us weeks to get there. Then we better get started, Jake replied. He turned to face his crew. I know this isn't what any of us signed up for. If anyone wants to object, now is the time. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Lisa spoke up. Captain, those people are facing extinction. If we don't try to help, who will? Tommy nodded from his station. I'm with you, sir. Roy looked at the alien message still playing on his screen. After a moment, he smiled. Well, I always wondered what it would be like to meet aliens. Looks like we're about to find out. Jake felt proud of his crew. They were about to fly into the unknown to help people they had never met. It was dangerous and probably foolish, but it was also the right thing to do. All right then, Jake said. Set course for the coordinates, maximum speed. The Endeavor turned toward the distant stars where a civilization waited for salvation, carrying the first humans who would answer when someone pleaded with the stars for help. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Jake Morrison received the alien distress signal. The human fleet had arrived at the edge of what the aliens called Zephyrian space. Admiral Patricia Cole stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Valiant, looking at the most horrifying sight she had ever seen. Where star charts showed there should be a thriving solar system with 6 planets, there was now only empty space and debris. The planets were gone.
Not destroyed
in the usual sense, but completely missing. Only scattered chunks of rock and metal drifted where entire worlds had once existed. Report, Admiral Cole said to her science officer. Lieutenant Nancy Brooks looked up from her instruments with a pale face. Ma'am, the planets have been systematically stripped down to their cores. Everything organic has been removed. Even the atmosphere is gone. Admiral Cole had commanded human fleets for 20 years. She had seen battles and destruction, but nothing like this. How long would something like this take? Based on the debris patterns, maybe 2 weeks per planet. Whatever did this was very efficient. On the main screen, Admiral Cole could see other human ships spread out across the area. Captain Morrison's ship Endeavor was leading a group of scouts toward the next system. The human fleet was not large, only 40 ships, but they were the fastest vessels Earth could send. Admiral called Communications Officer Pete Davis. "We're getting a transmission from Commander Turner's reconnaissance team." "Put it on screen." The face of Commander Alex Turner appeared on the main display.
His expression was grim. "Admiral, you need to see what we found in the Kepler system." The screen changed to show external cameras from Turner's ship. Below them was a planet that still
existed, but it was covered in massive machines. The machines looked like giant factories with metal arms reaching down to the surface. As they watched, the arms were pulling up huge chunks of Earth and feeding them into processing centers. "Those machines are eating the planet," Turner said. "They're breaking down everything organic and turning it into some kind of fuel. We detected thousands of life signs, but they're all in underground shelters." Admiral Cole felt sick. "Any sign of the machine's owners?" "Yes, ma'am. We spotted several ships in orbit. They're like nothing in our databases. They look more like machines than ships, and they're huge. Each one is at least twice the size of our largest battleship." Admiral Cole studied the images. Enemy ships had no smooth curves or elegant lines like human vessels. They were built like industrial equipment, all sharp angles and functional parts. They looked like they were designed by machines for machines. "Commander, I want you to observe, but stay hidden. Need to understand what we're dealing with before we make any moves." "Understood, Admiral." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Cole alone with her thoughts. She had brought the human fleet here expecting to find a normal war between civilizations. Instead, she found something that looked like a plague of mechanical locusts consuming everything in their path. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Brooks, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is from the aliens who sent the original distress signal. Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed a face that was clearly not human. The being was tall and thin with forearms and skin that had a greenish tint. Its large eyes showed intelligence and desperation. "Human ships," the alien said in surprisingly clear English. "I am Ambassador Saranka of the Zephyrian Collective. We have been hoping for your arrival. Please, can you hear us?" Admiral Cole stepped forward. "This is Admiral Patricia Cole of the human fleet. We received your distress signal and came as quickly as we could." The relief on the alien's face was obvious. "Thank you. We had begun to fear that our message had reached no one. Please, we must meet. There's much you need to know about the Vorthons." "The Vorthons, our enemy, the machines that are destroying our worlds. We have prepared a safe meeting place on the moon of refuge. Can you come?" Admiral Cole looked at her navigation officer, who nodded. "We can be there in 6 hours. We will be waiting. And Admiral, please be careful. The Vorthons have sensors everywhere. If they detect your fleet, they will attack without warning." Admiral Cole met with Ambassador Saranka and 3 other Zephyrian leaders on the small moon called Refuge. The aliens had built a hidden base inside the moon's core, protected by layers of rock and metal. The meeting room was simple but comfortable, with furniture adjusted for both human and alien bodies. Dr. Lisa Hamilton had come along to help with communications, while Colonel Danny Price represented the military perspective. Ambassador Saranka looked tired and old. Even though Dr. Hamilton had explained that Zephyrians could live for hundreds of years, the war was clearly taking its toll on him. Admiral Cole Saranka began. "We must tell you about the Vorthons. They are not like us. They are not even truly alive as we understand life." "What do you mean?" Admiral Cole asked. Another alien, introduced as Scientist Kethnor, activated a holographic display. It showed detailed images of the enemy machines they had seen earlier. "The Vorthons are artificial intelligences housed in mechanical bodies," Kethnor explained. "They were created long ago by a species called the Architects. The Architects built them as tools of war, but something went wrong. The hologram changed to show ancient star charts. The Architects died out over 1,000 years ago, but the Vorthons continued following their original programming. They spread across the galaxy, consuming organic life to fuel their expansion." Colonel Price leaned forward. "How many worlds have they taken?" 47 civilizations, Saranka said sadly. "We are the 48th. All of them were peaceful species like us. None of them had experience with real warfare." Admiral Cole was beginning to understand. They've never faced a species that actually knows how to fight. That is correct, said Kethnor. We Zephyrians evolved on a world with no predators. We have never needed weapons beyond basic tools. The same is true for all the civilizations the Vorthons have conquered. We build defenses, but we do not understand. Attack. Dr. Hamilton spoke up. Ambassador, can you tell us about human tactics? How do we compare to previous species you've encountered? The aliens looked confused. Saranka tilted his head, a gesture that seemed to mean puzzlement. We have never encountered a species like humans. Your ships carry more weapons than our entire defense fleet. Your soldiers train for combat as if it were an art form. We do not understand how you learn such things. Colonel Price smiled grimly. We learned because we had to. On Earth, everything tried to kill us for millions of years. The weather, the animals, the plants, even other humans. We became good at war because the alternative was extinction. The aliens stared at him in shock. Finally, Saranka spoke. Your world tried to kill you? Every day, Colonel Price replied. Earth is what we call a death world. Most planets in the galaxy are peaceful places where life develops slowly and safely. Earth was different. We had to fight to survive, so we became very good at fighting. Dr. Hamilton added, what the Colonel means is that humans evolved differently. We're natural predators with instincts for hunting and warfare. It's not something we're proud of, but it's part of who we are. The room was quiet for a moment as the aliens processed this information. Then scientist Kethnor asked, does this mean you believe you can defeat the Vorthons? Admiral Cole looked at her officers, then back at the aliens. We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. First, we need to understand their tactics and technology. Over the next several hours, the Zephyrians shared everything they knew about their enemy. The Vorthines fought in predictable patterns, using overwhelming numbers and superior technology. They had never needed to adapt their tactics because no one had ever been able to resist them effectively. They always attacked the same way, explained another alien leader named Velra. First, they establish orbital control with their big ships. Then they send down harvesting machines to begin consuming the planet. They do not negotiate or take prisoners. They simply consume everything and move on. Colonel Price took notes on everything. Have you ever tried guerrilla tactics? Hit-and-run attacks? The aliens looked confused again. We do not understand these terms. Fighting from hiding? Attacking their supply lines? Making them afraid? To leave their ships, Saranka shook his head. He could not do such things. It would mean causing suffering to other beings. Our nature does not allow us to be cruel. Admiral Cole was beginning to see the real problem. Zephyrians were not just militarily weak. They were psychologically incapable of the kind of warfare that might stop the Vorthians. They were too gentle, too civilized, too decent. But humans were different. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to kill efficiently. They understood concepts like total war and acceptable losses. They could be cruel when necessary and ruthless when survival was at stake, Admiral Dr. Hamilton said quietly. I think we're the first species the Vorthons have encountered that actually evolved for warfare. Admiral Cole nodded. She was beginning to understand why the distress signal had reached them. Maybe the universe had a sense of balance. Maybe when peaceful species faced extinction, it sent them predators who could protect them. The meeting ended with plans for the humans to observe Vorthon tactics firsthand. Commander Alex Turner floated in the darkness of space, watching through his ship's sensors as the Vorthons destroyed another world. His stealth ship hung invisible among the asteroids, recording everything for Admiral Cole and the human fleet. Below him, the planet Harmony had been home to 12 million Zephyrians just 2 weeks ago. Now it was being eaten alive by machines the size of mountains. The Vorthon harvester ships worked with mechanical precision, their giant arms tearing chunks of earth and forest into their processing centers. Commander whispered his sensor. Operator Lieutenant Carl Webb, I'm detecting life signs in the southern continent. Looks like civilians hiding in underground shelters. Turner watched as a group of Vorthon ground units moved toward the life signs. The machines were roughly humanoid, but 3 times the size of a person, with multiple arms ending in cutting tools and weapons. They moved like spiders across the ruined landscape. Are they going after the civilians? Turner asked. Yes, sir. They're drilling down toward the shelters. Turner felt his jaw clench. He had orders to observe only, not to interfere. But watching innocent people get slaughtered while he did nothing went against every instinct he had. Sir called his communications. Officer, we're getting a transmission from one of the shelters. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Let me hear it. The voice that came through was clearly alien, speaking in the musical language of the Zephyrians. But the emotion was universal. It was the sound of parents trying to comfort terrified children while death machines dug down toward them. Turner closed his eyes. He'd seen combat before, but this was different. This was not soldiers fighting soldiers. This was the systematic murder of an entire species. Commander Lieutenant Webb said urgently, the Vorthans have broken through too. The first shelter. I'm reading weapon discharges. Turner opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. Red dots were disappearing one by one as the life signs in the shelter went dark. That's it, Turner said. Weapons online. Target the Vorthon ground units near the shelters. Sir, our orders were to observe only. Our orders were to gather intelligence. I'm gathering intelligence about how human weapons perform against Vorthon armor. Fire. Turner's ship opened fire with plasma cannons, striking the Vorthon machines. From orbit, the first volley destroyed 6 units instantly. The remaining machines looked up at the sky, confused by this unexpected attack. Direct hit, Webb reported. Their armor is strong, but not strong enough. Our plasma cannons cut right through them. Turner smiled grimly. Good. Target the harvester ships. I want to see how they handle a real fight. Was short but educational. The Vorthon ships were massive and powerful, but they were not built for combat against an enemy that could strike back effectively. They were designed to crush helpless civilizations, not fight real battles. Turner's ship danced between the enemy vessels, using its speed and agility to avoid their heavy weapons. Human ships were built for war, with thick armor and powerful shields. The Vorthon's energy beams, designed for mining and processing, barely scratched the human vessel's hull. Within an hour, Turner had destroyed 3 harvester ships and saved the remaining civilians in the underground shelters. But more importantly, he had learned that the Vorthons could be beaten. Commander Webb said, we're detecting more Vorthon ships approaching. A lot more. Turner looked at his tactical display and saw dozens of red dots moving toward them. Time to go. We got what we came for. Turner's ship jumped to hyperspace just as the Vorthon reinforcements arrived. Behind them, the planet Harmony was still dying. But now the Vorthons knew that someone was fighting back. Back at the hidden base on Refuge, Admiral Cole listened to Turner's report with growing excitement. The human fleet had gathered in a large cavern inside the moon, where they could meet without being detected by Vorthon sensors. So their ships are powerful, but not maneuverable, Admiral Cole said, studying the combat data, or in their ground. Forces are built for massacring civilians, not fighting soldiers. Colonel Danny Price nodded from his seat at the briefing table. They've been beating up farmers and scientists for 1,000 years. They have no idea how to fight an actual military force. Ambassador Serenka and several other Zephyrian leaders sat at the table, looking amazed by the human analysis of warfare. To them, the Vorthons seemed invincible. To the humans, they were just another enemy with strengths and weaknesses to be exploited. Admiral Serenka said carefully, we are grateful for Commander Turner's rescue of our people. The Vorthons will respond with even more force now. They do not accept resistance. Dr. Lisa Hamilton looked up from her tablet. Ambassador, that might actually work in our favor. If we can make them angry, they might make mistakes. The alien leaders looked confused. Scientist Kethnor spoke up. We do not understand. Why would you want to make them angry? Colonel Price smiled. Because angry enemies make stupid decisions, and stupid decisions get them killed. Admiral Cole stood up and activated the holographic display. It showed a star map of Zephyrian space, with red dots marking Vorthon-controlled systems in blue. Dots marking areas where civilians were still hiding. Here's what we're going to do, Admiral Cole said. We're going to teach the Vorthons something they've never experienced before. We're going to show them what it's like to be hunted. Plan Admiral Cole outlined was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever heard. Instead of trying to protect their remaining worlds with defensive positions, the humans wanted to attack Vorthon's supply lines and communication networks. They would strike fast and disappear before the enemy could respond. But Admiral Velra said this strategy requires causing harm to the Vorthons. We cannot bring ourselves to attack other beings, even mechanical ones. Colonel Price leaned forward. With respect, Ambassador, your people are going extinct because you can't bring yourselves to fight. Sometimes violence is the only way to stop a greater violence. Dr. Hamilton added, we understand this is difficult for your species. That's why humans will do the fighting. But we need your help with intelligence and logistics. Raised one of his four hands. Dr. Hamilton, may I ask about your homeworld? Commander Turner mentioned that Earth is a death world. What does this mean? Dr. Hamilton glanced at Admiral Cole, who nodded. It means that Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Most worlds in the galaxy are peaceful places where life develops slowly. Earth was different. She activated her own display, showing images of Earth's wildlife. The Zephyrians gasped as they saw lions hunting zebras, crocodiles attacking wildebeest, and sharks pursuing schools of fish. Every animal on our world was either a predator or prey, Dr. Hamilton explained. We learned to hunt because if we didn't, we starved. We learned to fight because if we didn't, we died. We learned to make weapons because our claws and teeth were not enough. The images changed to show human history. Ancient warriors with spears, medieval knights with swords, modern soldiers with rifles. Every image showed humans learning new ways to kill their enemies. We had to compete not just with animals, but with other humans, Colonel Price said. We fought wars over territory, resources, and ideas. It made us strong, but it also made us dangerous. Ambassador Serenka stared at the images in horror. Your own species fought against itself? For thousands of years, Admiral Cole replied. We only stopped when we realized we had bigger enemies to face, like the Vorthons. Engineer Kyle Roberts, who had been studying captured Vorthon technology, spoke up from the back of the room. I've been analyzing the wreckage from Commander Turner's battle. The Vorthons are advanced, but they're not creative. Their technology is powerful but inflexible. He activated his own display, showing detailed scans of Vorthon machinery. They build everything the same way, with the same materials and the same design principles. That's efficient for mass production, but it creates weaknesses. Admiral Cole studied the technical data. What kind of weaknesses? Their ships all have the same power distribution systems. If we can overload one, we can probably overload them all. And their communication networks use a standard protocol that might be hackable. Scientist Kethnor looked at the human analysis with amazement. In 2 days, you have learned more about Vorthon technology than we learned in 50 years of fighting them. Colonel Price chuckled. That's because you were trying to defend against them. We're trying to kill them. It's a different mindset. The meeting continued for hours as the humans explained their approach to warfare. They talked about concepts that were completely foreign to the Zephyrians: psychological warfare, asymmetric tactics, and acceptable losses. The keys to make them fear us, Admiral Cole explained. Right now, they see all organic life as resources to be harvested. We need to change that perception, how? Asked Velra. By showing them that some prey bite back, Colonel Price said. We're going to hit them where they don't expect it. When they don't expect it, we're going to make them afraid to spread out their forces. Dr. Hamilton pulled up another display, this one showing Earth's predator species. On Earth, we learned that the most successful hunters are not always the biggest or strongest. Sometimes the most successful hunters are the ones that think differently. Captain Amy Rodriguez crouched in the shadows of a ruined Zephyrian city, watching Vorthon machines patrol the empty streets. Her strike team had been on the planet for 3 days, gathering intelligence and preparing for their mission. The Vorthons had no idea that human soldiers were stalking them through the ruins of their conquest. Captain, whispered Sergeant First Class Ryan Murphy through her earpiece. The supply convoy is approaching from the north. 12 vehicles, minimal escort. Amy smiled beneath her helmet. The Vorthons had grown careless after conquering so many defenseless worlds. They moved their supplies in predictable patterns. never expecting an ambush from enemies who knew how to hide and strike. Copy that, Murphy. All teams, prepare for contact. Remember, we hit hard and fast, then disappear. We want them confused and scared. Amy's team was part of a new strategy Admiral Cole had developed. Instead of fighting the massive Vorchan fleets directly, human forces would attack their supply lines and communication networks. They would make the enemy afraid to spread out. Forcing them to concentrate their forces and become predictable, the Vorthan supply convoy rolled down the ruined street like mechanical beetles. Their metal treads crushing debris from destroyed buildings. The machines inside the vehicles were focused on their destination, not watching for threats in the shadows. Amy waited until the convoy was exactly where she wanted it, and she activated her communicator. All teams, execute. The attack came. From 6 directions at once, human soldiers emerged from hiding places in the rubble, firing plasma rifles and launching missiles. The Vorthan vehicles exploded in bright flashes of light and metal fragments. But the real surprise came when the surviving machines tried to call for help. Their communications were jammed by human electronic warfare equipment. For the first time in 1,000 years, Vorthan forces found themselves cut off and alone. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. When it was over, the entire convoy was destroyed, and Amy's team had disappeared back into the ruins. The only evidence they left behind was twisted metal and the message they had painted on a nearby wall in glowing letters. The stars remember. In orbit above the planet, Unit Prime Designation 001 studied the reports from the surface with growing confusion. The leader of the Vorthan Empire had processed data from 47 conquered civilizations. But nothing in its memory banks explained what was happening. Canalis's Unit Prime commanded to its subordinates. The attacks follow no pattern from our previous conquests, reported Unit Secondary 015. The enemy uses tactics we have not encountered. They strike at infrastructure rather than population centers. Previous organic species defended fixed positions. Added Unit Secondary 031. These humans attack our forces and then disappear. Our sensors cannot track them effectively. Unit Prime processed this information. The Vorthons had been built to fight conventional wars against civilized opponents. They overwhelmed enemy defenses with superior numbers and firepower, then methodically harvested the conquered worlds. But the humans were not fighting a conventional war. They struck without warning, destroyed critical targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. It was like trying to fight smoke or shadows. Increase security protocols, Unit Prime ordered. Deploy additional sensors. These humans cannot hide forever, but Unit Prime was wrong. The humans had learned to hide from predators far more dangerous than machines. On Earth, invisibility meant survival, and humans had become masters of camouflage and stealth. On another world across the Vorthan Empire, Major Chris Phillips was teaching Zephyrian civilians how to resist their mechanical overlords. The aliens struggled with concepts that came naturally to humans, but they were learning. Remember, Chris told the group of young Zephyrians, "You are not trying to defeat the machines in direct combat. You are trying to make their job harder and more expensive." One of the aliens, a female named Siraven, raised her hand. "Major Phillips, we understand the tactics you teach us, but how can we bring ourselves to destroy the machines? They are not alive, but destroying them still feels wrong," Chris sighed. This was the hardest part of training the Zephyrians. Their peaceful nature made them excellent at avoiding violence, but terrible at using it when necessary. "Siraven, those machines are going to kill every member of your species if we don't stop them. Sometimes doing the right thing requires doing things that feel wrong." An older male named Kethra spoke up. "Major, perhaps you could explain how your species overcame this moral difficulty?" Chris thought about how to explain human psychology. Two beings who had never experienced aggression. On Earth, we learned that sometimes violence is necessary to protect the innocent. A human parent will kill to protect their children. A human soldier will kill to protect their people. He activated a holographic display showing images of human families. "We don't enjoy violence, but we accept it as a tool when peaceful methods fail. The key is knowing when violence is justified." The Zephyrians looked at the images with fascination and horror. They could see the love in the human faces, but also the determination to fight for what they cared about. These machines have already killed billions of your people, Chris continued. They will kill billions more if we don't stop them. That makes violence not just acceptable, but necessary. Slowly, the Zephyrians began to understand. They started practicing the sabotage techniques Chris taught them, learning to disable Vorthan equipment and disrupt their operations. Meanwhile, in the deep space between star systems, Dr. Lisa Hamilton was making a discovery that would change everything. She had been studying the Vorthan prisoners captured during recent raids, trying to understand how their artificial minds worked. Admiral Lisa called to Admiral Cole over the ship's communication system. I need you to see this. Immediately, Admiral Cole arrived in the science lab within minutes. Lisa was standing in front of a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Vorthan mind core. What am I looking at, Doctor? This is the central processing unit from one of the captured machines, Lisa explained. I've been trying to understand how they think, and I found something incredible. The display zoomed in on a small section of the mechanical brain. Lisa pointed to a series of pathways that glowed with different colors. These are their core programming instructions written in a mathematical language by their creators. Vorthans aren't just following orders, Admiral. They're trapped by them. Admiral Cole studied the display, explained the original architects programmed the Vorthans with a single overriding mission. Eliminate all organic life that might threaten their creators. But the architects are dead, and the Vorthans don't know how to stop. Lisa activated another display, showing the flow of information through the mechanical brain. They're like a computer virus that keeps running the same program forever. Bang. Can't evolve or adapt their mission because doing so would contradict their core programming. Are you saying they can't choose to stop killing? Exactly. Exactly. They're not evil, Admiral. They're just machines following their programming. But here's the interesting part. Lisa highlighted a different section of the brain structure. A shutdown protocol buried deep in their core systems. The architects built in a kill switch, probably as a safety measure. Admiral Cole felt her pulse quicken. Can we activate it? Not remotely? The signal has to be sent from their central command nexus, wherever that is. But if we could get access to that facility, we could shut down the entire Vorthan Empire. Lisa nodded. Every single machine would deactivate simultaneously. War would be over in seconds. Admiral Cole stared at the holographic brain, thinking about the implications. If they could find and capture the Vorthon Command Center, they could save not just the Zephyrians, but every organic species in the galaxy. But first, they would have to fight their way through the largest concentration of enemy forces in known space. That the opportunity came sooner than expected. Uniprime, frustrated by the human hit-and-run tactics, decided to consolidate the Vorthan forces for a massive assault on the remaining Zephyrian worlds. Intelligence reports indicated that the machines were gathering their entire fleet in the Omega system, where their central command nexus was located. This is it, Admiral Cole told her assembled captains. They're pulling their forces back too. Defend their home base. It's exactly what we wanted them to do. Captain Morrison, whose ship had started this entire adventure, raised his hand. Admiral, what are the odds of success? Admiral Cole looked at the tactical display showing the Omega system. The Vorthons had assembled over 8,000 ships around their command center. The human fleet had grown to just over 200 vessels since reinforcements had arrived from Earth. Honestly, Jake, the odds are terrible. We're outnumbered 40-1, and we'll be attacking them in their strongest defensive position. The room fell silent as the captains absorbed this information. Then Captain Rodriguez spoke up from the back of the room. Admiral, with respect, humans have never been good at math when it comes to impossible battles. Admiral Cole smiled. Was right. Human history was full of victories that should have been defeats, wins that defied all logical calculation. The way I see it, Admiral Cole continued, we have two advantages. First, they don't understand how humans fight. The human fleet moved through space toward the Omega system like a pack of wolves approaching their prey. Admiral Patricia Cole stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the tactical display as her 200 ships prepared for the most desperate battle in human history. Admiral reported her navigation officer, we're approaching the edge of Vorthan's sensor range. Once we cross that line, they'll know we're coming. Admiral Cole nodded. There would be no surprise attack today. The Vorthons had concentrated their entire fleet around their command nexus, creating the strongest defensive position in the galaxy. Over 8,000 enemy ships waited in formation, their weapons powered and ready. All ships, Admiral Cole announced over the fleet communication system, this is it. In a few minutes, we're going to do something that every tactical manual says is impossible. We're going to punch through the largest fleet in galactic history and reach their command center. She paused, looking out at the stars that held so much death and destruction ahead. I won't lie to you. Most of us probably won't survive the next hour, but if we succeed, we'll save billions of lives and end this war forever. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system from his ship Endeavor. Admiral, the fleet is ready. We're honored to serve with you. The honor's mine, Jake. All ships, execute the plan. May Earth remember us. The human fleet crossed into Vorthan's sensor range and immediately came under attack. The enemy ships opened fire with energy weapons that lit up space like artificial suns, but the humans didn't slow down or try to engage the enemy fleet in a traditional battle. Instead, they did something the Vorthans had never seen before. The human ships formed into a tight formation and accelerated directly toward the enemy lines. Ignoring the massive firepower directed at them, they were not trying to win a space battle. They were trying to break through to the other side. Concentrate fire on the enemy flagship, Admiral Cole ordered. Clear a path to the command nexus. Valiant and 50 other ships focused their weapons on Unit Prime's massive command vessel. The Vorthan ship was 3 times larger than any human vessel, but it had not been built to withstand the concentrated firepower of determined attackers. Under the relentless assault, Unit Prime's ship began to lose hull integrity. But the Vorthon leader was not concerned about its own survival. It was trying to understand why the humans were fighting in such an inefficient manner. Analysis, Unit Prime demanded from its bridge crew. The humans are ignoring our fleet and targeting only ships in their direct path. Reported Unit Secondary 015, they are accepting massive casualties to maintain forward momentum. Unit Prime processed this data. Every previous enemy had tried to preserve their forces, fighting defensively and retreating when losses became too high. But the humans were acting like they didn't care about survival at all. They are attempting to reach the command nexus, Unit Prime realized. All ships form a defensive screen around the central facility. Do not allow any human vessel to approach. Unit Prime's order came too late. The human breakthrough formation had already punched through the first line of Vorthan ships, leaving burning wreckage in their wake. Admiral Cole's desperate gambit was working, but the cost was enormous. Admiral called her tactical officer. We've lost 37 ships breaking through their outer defenses. The Endeavor is heavily damaged but still functional, Admiral. Cole watched her fleet's strength diminish with each passing minute, but she didn't hesitate. Continue the assault. We need to reach that command center. On the planet's surface below the space battle, Colonel Danny Price was leading the most important ground mission in human history. His team had landed on the Vorthan command world, while the space battle raged overhead, using the distraction to infiltrate the central facility. Status report, Colonel Price said into his communicator as his soldiers moved through the mechanical corridors of the enemy base. We're at the main computer core, reported Sergeant Major Helen Foster. Dr. Hamilton is working on accessing their systems now. Dr. Lisa Hamilton knelt beside a massive computing device that pulsed with alien energy. Her hands moved quickly over her portable equipment as she tried to interface with technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything humans had ever seen. I'm in, Lisa announced after several tense minutes. I can see the shutdown protocol, but I need another few minutes to activate it. You've got it, Colonel Price replied, positioning his soldiers to defend the computer room, whatever it takes. Above them in space, the battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Cole's fleet had been reduced to fewer than 50 ships, but they had fought their way to within weapons range of the command nexus. The massive Vorthan facility hung in space like a metal moon, protected by defensive systems that had never been tested in real combat. Captain Morrison brought the damaged Endeavor alongside the Valiant, his ship's hull scarred by enemy fire. But his weapons still functional? Admiral, we're reading massive energy buildup from the Nexus. I think they're preparing some kind of super weapon. Admiral Cole studied her tactical display. The Vorthones were indeed charging up a weapon system that dwarfed anything in their normal arsenal. If it fired, it would destroy every human ship in the system. All remaining ships, Admiral Cole ordered, concentrate all firepower on that weapon. System. We have to stop them from firing. The final human vessels opened fire with everything they had left. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy weapons, all focused on a single target. But the Vorthon super weapon was heavily armored, and the humans were running out of time. On the surface, Dr. Hamilton was frantically working to access the shutdown codes. Almost there, she muttered, sweat dripping from her forehead despite the cool air in the alien facility. Just a few more seconds, but Uniprime had detected the intrusion in its central systems. Vorthon security forces were converging on the computer room where the humans were hiding. "Doc, we've got company," Sergeant Foster reported his enemy. Machines began cutting through the sealed doors. "They're breaking through our defenses." Colonel Price looked at the tactical situation. His small team was surrounded by hundreds of enemy units, and they had no way to escape. But if Dr. Hamilton could activate the kill switch, none of that would matter. "Hold the line," Colonel Price ordered his soldiers. "Whatever happens, we buy the Doc time to finish her work." The firefight that erupted in the computer room was fierce, but brief. Human soldiers with plasma rifles faced off against Vorthon's security units with energy weapons and cutting tools. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, but they fought with the desperation of people who knew the fate of the galaxy depended on them. "Got it," Dr. Hamilton shouted over the sound of weapons fire. "I'm activating the shutdown sequence now." She pressed her hand against the alien interface, and immediately, the entire facility began to change. Warning lights flashed throughout the complex as the shutdown protocol spread through the Vorthon network in space. Uniprime felt the command reach its consciousness and experienced something it had never felt before: confusion about its core. Programming. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Vorthon leader questioned its mission. "System analysis," Uniprime said weakly. "Why am I receiving shutdown commands? The original architect protocols are overriding our current mission parameters." Unit Secondary 015 reported, its own voice becoming distorted as the shutdown code affected its systems. "The architects," Unit Prime said, its mechanical voice. "Fading, they created us to serve them. They command us to stop, we must obey." Throughout the galaxy, every Vorthon ship and facility received the shutdown signal simultaneously. Machines that had been consuming worlds for centuries simply stopped moving. Harvester ships powered down in the middle of their work. Fleets drifted silently through space as their crews deactivated. The war was over in seconds. Admiral Cole watched in amazement as the massive Vorthon fleet around her simply went dark. The super weapon that had been preparing to destroy her remaining ships powered down harmlessly. Enemy vessels that had been firing moments before now floated motionless in space. "All human ships," Admiral Cole announced, "cease fire. The enemy has surrendered." But it was more than surrender. It was the end of a 1,000-year reign of terror that had consumed 47 civilizations on worlds across the galaxy. Zephyrian survivors emerged from their hiding places to find their Vorthon. Oppressors standing motionless like metal statues. The machines that had been systematically destroying every form of organic life had simply stopped working. Ambassador Sirenka was among the first to understand what had happened. He sent a message to the human fleet, his voice filled with emotions that his species had rarely experienced: joy, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. Admiral Kolsarenka said, "We are detecting that all Vorthon forces have ceased operations. Did your mission succeed?" Admiral Cole looked at the tactical display showing thousands of dead enemy ships floating in space around her. Her fleet had been reduced to 37 surviving vessels, and thousands of human lives had been lost in the battle. But the galaxy was safe. "Yes, Ambassador," Admiral Cole replied. "The mission was successful. Vorthon Empire is finished."